What's up, Ripple Effect? I hope you guys are doing awesome. If you remember last Sunday, we started our study through the book of Romans, and we read through chapter 1, 2, and a little bit of 3. This is your midweek study that we're releasing tonight, and we're going to read through the rest of 3 and finish up chapter 4. And if you guys remember what we were talking about, we set up this idea that Paul was writing the letter to the church in Rome, all these different house churches that were in Rome. And there was this argument going on between the Jewish people and the Gentile people. And the Jewish people really wanted everyone who was joining the church to follow all the same rules and all the same laws that they had followed for so many years. But Paul is kind of arguing for the Gentiles, saying that that's not necessary. And kind of the biggest law that we see him use repeatedly as an example is circumcision. And this is something that the Jewish people did to their children, and the Gentiles didn't have this same law, didn't have the same ritual. So whenever the Gentiles were joining the church, a lot of the Jewish people really thought the Gentiles needed to be circumcised, whether they were children or not, whether they were babies or not. And Paul is arguing against this, but it's really just the greatest example of the law that Paul has. So he's talking about how we're not made right by the law. We're not made right by what we do, but rather we're made right by faith and faith alone. And Paul talks about that a lot in these upcoming chapters that we're going to read through, that there's only one thing that makes us right with Jesus. So keep your eyes on that, focus on that. And I think the reality is, while we all know that to be true, lots of times we don't live like that. Lots of times we find ourselves judging ourselves, being really hard on ourselves, or even judging others and being really hard on others. So pay attention to that and kind of look back at your life and see where you've done that as you read through chapter 3 and 4. And what you'll see is that while we're justified by faith and faith alone, our behavior doesn't not matter. Our behavior does matter. Paul says, basically gets at this idea that we do things, we trust God, we walk with God, we follow God because he's made us right with him, not to be made right with him. So hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully it'll be a little bit more clear as we continue to read through the chapter. But there's some awesome prompts in there. They are journal prompts rather than discussion prompts, since you're not going to be in small groups. So you can write down your answers or maybe even just reflect about them if you're not crazy about journaling either way. But we are excited to keep going. So check it out, and we will see you on Sunday to continue our study.